Good evening and welcome everyone to Sim Racing Online. You are tuned in currently to the third round of the Formula 1979 V8 Championship. We are at Lake Garnet today, the 1963 version of Lake Garnet. We are set for 60 minutes of racing. But we have a little bit of housekeeping to go through before we get started. We've had 2 rounds so far. This championship is every 2 weeks. So we've been to Black Cat County and, if I can pronounce this correctly, Tulln Lungenlenbahn 1968, which was on the 17th of April. Now we're at Lake Garnet for the next 3 rounds. We're going to be at Mont Tremblant in Canada, Le Mans Bugatti 1967 in France, and off to Belgium for Zolder 1967. We have 15 minutes of quali. There is no mandatory pit stop, and the drivers will be going off a standing start. So all drivers will be using the RSS Formula 79 V8, which is basically the Lotus 79. If you're familiar with the Lotus 79, it's a pretty successful chassis way back in the late 70s, early 80s. It's one of the precursors to ground effect and the ground effect era, I suppose. Powered by Ford DFV V8. As I say, we are at Lake Garnet today. Lake Garnet, 2.6 mile circuit. Not used an awful lot nowadays. I do have a little bit of a blurb about it. Now, apparently Lake Garnet used to host races for the SCCA series between 1959 and 1972, which was the premier series at the time. It featured manufacturers such as Ferrari, Maserati, Shelby, Chevrolet and Austin Healey, and included famous race car drivers that you may have heard of, like Dan Gurney and Carroll Shelby. It did host events around the 4th of July with an estimated attendance of around 60,000 to 70,000 fans, so pretty popular back then. But apparently due to difficulties with crowd control and increased safety concerns, and we'll see about the safety concerns because of the tight and twisty circuit when we check out an onboard in a minute, the track was closed to competitive racing in 1972. But it lives on in virtual form, so that's what we're racing with the Lotus 79 or the Formula 79. So, as I said, I have an onboard and I can take you through what the track actually looks like. So here we go, we're going to step on board with Maddie Shepherd. Right, so up to the line to start the first lap. Very, very bumpy circuit. Down the hill through the Armco up to one of the slowest corners on the track. Probably down to about first gear. Slight bump on the apex there. And this will be a slight right-hander through some Armco barriers and onto what is the back straight. So drivers will be hoping to get a draft up this back straight. It is one of the premier passing opportunities. Down a couple of gears and through what could be some very treacherous rock walls. Down into a dip over the top of the hill for a right-hander. Another right-hander coming up. Slight lift. Couple down, a couple of gears, avoid the Armco, try not to run wide, and up to a right angle turn, slightly off camber it seems, quite hard to keep the car in, and then we go through what looks like an S's section, slight lift coming through here, very, very tight, and then we accelerate hard, try to get as much grip as possible, try not to run too wide, then over the line. So that is a lap of Lake Garnet. Very interesting track, very tight track. So, as I say, we've had 2 rounds so far. This is the state of the championship. It is currently Lons in the lead with 41 points. Kirill Kirillov not far behind in second with 34 points, and Michael Masaryk in third with 28. So what I should do, I will run through the drivers on the server so you can see who your favourite is going to be. So let's have a look at the practice. We are set to go to qualifying in about 10 minutes or so. But let's have a look at the drivers. So in reverse championship order, let's see who we have. So I don't believe that Marius is actually here today, or at least he's not on the server. Marius is currently 12th in the championship. Jones is currently practicing, currently 11th in the championship from the US. Currently running what I believe is the Alfa Romeo skin. So all of these drivers are running real world skins. A lot of them will be very, very familiar to you. Now Ed Jones has done both of the first and second round. Unfortunately, not quite got into the top 5 as of yet. 10th place we have Paul Upham. Paul Upham did have an absolute nightmare the last round on what was a very bumpy airfield. Actually, I believe that Paul Upham's in the pits at the moment. Currently 7th in practice, but he's 10th in the championship, Canadian driver. And let's look at Kimi Martikainen is currently 9th in the championship, running what I believe is the Renault skin, or the Renault-like skin. So Martikainen is currently 9th in the championship, a Finnish driver. And then we go to, I always get his name wrong, Philip Pichler. We join him just as he's having a bit of an excursion in the undergrowth there. I believe he's running what would be the Wolf skin, I believe. It's got a lion on the front of it. Looks like it's very slippy out there. A lot of these drivers having to maybe sacrifice straight line speed. Personally, on this track, I would just stick on all the downforce and just hope for the best. So, Philip Pichler, a German driver running from in 8th place at the moment. And then we go to Tony Talviti, a Finnish driver, currently 7th in the championship. Had a little bit of a scrappy round last round. I believe he could have got a little further up, but didn't quite get into the top 3. Currently 7th in the championship and heading out on a lap. Then we have our administrator, John van der Geest, currently 6th in the championship. Hasn't quite got up to the top 5 as of yet, running in the Arrows livery. And John van der Geest is from the Netherlands. And then we go on board with Phil Brown. Phil Brown is in the Martini Lotus, so the very classic looking Martini skin. Phil Brown is an English driver, currently 5th place in the championship, and has stepped on the podium once out of the 2 rounds that we've had so far. So looking for a good result from Phil today. Maddie Shepherd currently in the pits. Had a nightmare the last time out at the airfield. Finished 2nd in the first round, but he's currently 4th in the championship. So expect good things from Maddie this time around. So 4th in the championship, a British driver, and currently just taking a lap out the pits. And then we go to our podium. It doesn't actually look like we have Michael Masaryk on the server at the moment. So Michael Masaryk, a Polish driver, has finished on the podium once. He's 3rd in the championship at the moment. Then we have Kirill Kirillov in the very famous McLaren-looking livery, currently 2nd in the championship. He actually won the last round, quite convincingly. So hoping for good things from Kirill Kirillov from Germany today. And then we have our championship leader, Laurent Lons. It looks like he's also running an Arrows livery, which is going to be extra confusing, because I believe that looks like very similar to John van der Geest. Currently leading the championship with 41 points. So if we look at the timesheets at the moment, Kirill Kirillov is up the top with a 118.5. So in fact, Michael Masaryk has indeed entered the server. We are a little earlier than planned for qualification. It looks like it's going to be very difficult. There's a lot of dips and rises. Now, I'm guessing just whack on all the downforce and hope for the best, because you're going to need all the traction. But looking at some of the places to pass, it looks from onboard. It looks like a very tight circuit, and the bumps are going to put a lot of these drivers off. There's no curbs to kind of give you a guide of where the apex is. And you don't really want to be touching a wheel on the grass at all, otherwise you're heading out into the undergrowth. I'm not sure how far you can go off the circuit, but it does look flat out through the final turn, at least on board with Kirillov there. And you've got these special sections with the arm coat left and right there. So here's Michael Masaryk, or Michael Masaryk. I'll have to ask him how he pronounces his name. Michael Masaryk has finished on the podium once this season so far. So after this race, we will be halfway through the season. So we've got quite a big spread in lap times, from 118 all the way down to about the 122s. Jones at the bottom there has got a bit of time to find with a 124.4. As Masaryk heads up and over the hill. As I said before, Tony Talviti has had some really good competitive rounds in the first round at Black Cat County. He was probably one of the fastest cars on the circuit. He seemed to be maybe running a higher downforce setup than anybody else, and was able to just breeze by. Or maybe he was running low downforce and he was just dealing with it in the corners. But whatever setup he was running, he was much faster than anybody else. But he did have unfortunately some coming together with a couple of cars. He got caught up with a couple of cars. Plus some of the racing in the last round, he was very competitive, but the airfield Tulln Langenlenbahn, I always pause before I pronounce it because it's very difficult. He was in the mix, but unfortunately got tangled up with a couple of drivers. It was very difficult to pass on what was a very simple circuit. Now this is a very different setup. It's more of a country roads type track, kind of barriers to help. And the airfield last 2 weeks ago, you could pretty much collide with the hay bales on the outside that kept you in the inside the track. Unfortunately, they were solid, and we did have a couple of huge accidents from a few people. I think Maddie Shepherd collided with them quite a few times. So if we head on board with Maddie Shepherd. Now Maddie Shepherd is running the John Player Special skin. We may see some passing opportunities down into the hairpin. So if no one gets a passing opportunity into the hairpin, then getting a run onto this straight is probably the next opportunity. And it's probably one of the longest straights we've had on the calendar so far. I know Black Cat County did have some similar, but again, as I say, it's very dependent on setup. A lot of people do sacrifice downforce and hope to be able to pass on the straights, but I think passing is not really going to be possible through the twisty sections of this track. You're going to have to wait till what is maybe 2 straights. I don't think the short straight is long enough to be able to get a run, but we will see. I mean, these drivers could think outside the box and perhaps pull off a move that I haven't thought of yet, but we'll have to see. 5 minutes until qualification, and qualification is about 15 minutes long. So this is Marius Labioda, currently 12th in the championship. He's now on the server and putting through some laps. Currently 9th on the board, 120.7. And we did notice that sometimes in practice some of the drivers are working on their race setup, and then when it comes to quali, suddenly all the downforce comes up and all the fuel comes out and they go even faster. So we'll keep an eye on the 118.2. This does look like Kirillov has got a handle on this car. Currently about 0.5, half a second in front of second place Phil Brown here. So this is what will be the end of the long straight. Whether it's a harsh enough stopping point to be able to get an overlap. But I think the drivers have got to be very, very wary with contact. It looks like this track is only just big enough for 2 cars. We'll have to see how the collision model of Assetto Corsa deals with it. But it does look like the course is also very, very bumpy. I mean, a lot of these corners are very much commitment focused. Blind apexes, you have to kind of trust where the apex is. Going over a blind crest and then coming through a dip, and to make sure that, as we go on board with Philip Pichler, who in a roundabout way of getting through that corner. I don't think that's the stay on the grey stuff there. So take a look at Tony Talviti. Is currently in 6th place in practice, 119.4. What we find as well is these cars are very, very loud. So if there is a pack of cars at the start of the race, it's going to be very, very loud. Into the slowest corner on the track. Well, in fact, not the slowest corner on the track, fastest straight on the track. Slightly lifts over the top of the hill. And kind of a bit of a spoon bend down a couple of gears, and it's going to be challenging I believe the drivers have got to give each other enough space to get around some of these corners. A tight little S section. It does look like a lot of people are able to keep it flat all the way over the line, so is anyone able to get a run up into what is the one of the sharpest stopping points on the circuit? Looks like a lot of lockups for Tony into the hairpin. So 1:18.2 is the time to beat. Brown is half a second, but again, it's very hard to tell in practice whether drivers are working on qualification setups or race setups. Looks like we are just about to head to quali. Right, just as a reminder, we are doing 60 minutes of racing today. It is a 15-minute qualification session. No mandatory pit stop. We're just waiting for the admins to roll over to qualification. So a reminder, 18.2 is the time to beat. I'm sure that suddenly the fuel will come out and the cars will be a bit lighter. Maybe a couple of clicks of downforce will come off. Who knows? Who knows? There is a team championship in this series as well, and I will run through that while we wait for the qualification. 4 teams are taking part in this championship. We have Bad Voices Racing, currently 4th in the championship. There's 1 driver currently for Bad Voices Racing. That is Ed Jones. Then we got in 3rd place Team Solitude. 2 drivers, 1 driver for Team Solitude, as the cars are heading out on the track for qualification. So Team Solitude is Philip Pichler, who's currently in the pits at the moment. Philip Pichler, they are 3rd in the championship. And then True North Racing in 2nd place in the championship. 4 drivers for True North Racing. You can only count 2 in the championship so far that have scored points anyway. That is Kirill Kirilov and Paul Upham for True North Racing. And then we have GEAR, or Gear, I suppose. And they have 6 drivers in the championship, although only 3 have scored points so far, which are championship leader Laurent Lons and John van der Geest and Tony Talviti. And they're currently leading the team championship. Right, so let's have a look at who's going to set the first time. Big queue of cars, as I can see on the track map. So Laurent Lons has put a time in. Not a representative time just yet, that is their out lap. So I believe Philip Pichler might be the first one to come across the line, if I've done my calculations correctly. Across the line and goes 2nd. That isn't a representative time. 1:35 at the top. We're looking for 1:18s. As Phil takes a little bit of an excursion. Phil Brown being closely followed by Laurent Lons. So is this an opportunity for a little bit of a draft? In fact, that's not Laurent Lons, that's Maddie Shepherd right behind. In the Lotus livery. Still waiting for the times to come in. Not really representative at the moment. It's either that or the timing screen is having an awful lot of problems. There we go, Kirill Kirilov. Better in times from practice, 1:18.0. Now in this series, or in this league, the qualification rules are as follows. You have to do an out lap, a fast lap, and you have to do an in lap. If you crash out on circuit, you have to make it back to the pits to be able to go out again. So 1:18.0. Tony Talviti is the next driver. 1 second, got to find 1 second, 1:19.0. And Laurent Lons, championship leader, in third, another second behind. So a lot of people maybe need to really warm up their tyres and get a good run in. We still have over 10 minutes to go. So Laurent Lons currently in 4th place. Through the final few turns, and he's going to start another fast lap unless he pulls into the pits. Yep, this looks like another fast lap. Let's stay on board with Laurent Lons. Come up to 3rd place with 1:19.3, still with a lot of time to find. Goes up to 3rd, slight bit of lock up. And then unfortunately gets on the loud pedal a bit too quickly there. And spins it around. Maddie Shepherd has now popped up to 2nd place. Proving very difficult for the cars to stop at the end of that straight there. A lot of locked tyres. Maddie Shepherd is the closest driver to Kirilov with a 1:18.3. Far behind. Really missing their braking point now. I believe that was Kirilov, maybe hoping for a little bit of a draft. In fact, that wasn't Kirilov, was it? Getting all my paint jobs mixed up. That was Phil Brown. So Phil Brown was hoping for a little bit of a draft from the driver in front. A bit of time to find. Phil Brown currently in 4th place. 19.9, so the times are coming down. As Kirilov sets a fastest lap time of a 1:17.7. I told you the lap times are going to tumble. 1:17.7. So he's found the sweet spot with this car. All up and currently in the 1:19, so a lot of drivers in the 1:18s now. 5 cars in the 1:18s. Oh, again locking up the tyres. It's not going to do the tyres any good coming into that really slow hairpin. Sounds like he's flat through that slight right kink. Up to about 270 kilometers an hour. 272. Oh, that was very, very close to the wall. Slight dip and hoping the car doesn't hit the ground. There's an apex somewhere. It's not there though. It's very difficult to keep the car into the apexes, especially when there's no particular guide for where the curbs are. Kimi Martikainen currently in 10th place. Has had some good results at the start of the races, but has unfortunately had a few incidents which have dropped him down the order. So it's a lovely looking Renault livery. Whoa! Pushing a bit too hard. Let's hope that the person behind doesn't go into a cloud of smoke. So So Lawrence has got his work cut out this time around. That's 7th place. He doesn't have a big championship lead, so this could change the face of the championship going into the 4th round. So the 4th round is going to be a very, very similar kind of track to this, which is blind crests and dips. Maybe the track is a little wider, so going to Mont Tremblant in 2 weeks' time in Canada. So Lons has a little bit of time to find. He's in the 119s, but he's coming through the final section of the lap. Seems very difficult to keep that nose in. And then through one of the slowest sections of the track. Right angle turn going left. And then we got Panda coming up. Or what is an S's bend. You can pretty much straight line the S's. Going hard on the throttle to go over the line. Let's see if we're going to improve our position. He does improve his time, but not his position. He's currently still in 7th place with a 119.1. Tony Talviti in 3rd place currently with just over 5 minutes to go. Track is blocked. I believe that was Paul Upham. I think Paul Upham's probably called his qualification a day. He's going to sit in the pits and wait for the rest of them to finish. So Tony Talviti to see what he has for the top 2. He's in the 118, so 118.5. What is the final bend, or the final sweeper? Let's see, it was 118.5. Didn't improve on that lap. So he's still got a little bit of time to find. Kirilov and Maddie Shepherd, the top 2, are in the pits. We're gonna a couple of setup tweaks. Or perhaps they are fine with the lap times that they've done. Michael Mazurek, currently 3rd in the championship. Currently 5th place in qualification. Huge dip. Huge dip. There's an apex there. Got to keep it really tight towards that Armco. The corner seems to go on and on and on. We've got a right angle left turn and up to the S's. Slight lift through the S's section. You dip a little bit of a front wheel on the grass without too much trouble. But through these fast sections, you don't really want to be dipping any wheels on the grass. So now he's popped up to 4th place with a 118.8. So it's getting very close between the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th. And then we've got a gap to what is the championship leader. Still a little bit off the place in 6th place. So I know I am going to get confused between Lons running a very similar paint job to our admin of the series, which is John Vandergeest, down in 9th place. And John Vandergeest currently in 9th place. 119.5. So it's 2 distinct groups, or at least 3 distinct groups. So those in the 118s and 19s, and then you have the leader of the other section, which is Philip Pichler, And 121s. I did think that Philip Pichler actually did better lap times in practice, so I do believe we have a newcomer to the series. This is Jari Laakkonen. This will be his first race with us in this series, so it'd be good to get some points on the board. So points do go down to about, let's just check the championship table. So I can't remember off the top of my head. It is 25 points for a win, 18 points for second and 15th for third. So points do go down to 10th place. And we are going to have to do some quick maths when the race is finished. As Jari is just making way for, I believe, is Kirilov is coming through. So that can't be Kirilov, because Kirilov is actually in the pits. Maybe that is Paul Upham out on track again, although we did see that Paul Upham did spin over the road. Maybe that was because Paul Upham and Kirill Kirilov are running very similar paint jobs. Maybe it was Kirilov just pushing a bit too hard that got stranded on the bridge there, because he's been in the pits from this point onwards. So we're coming down to what is the final lap times. It looks like there's only one person that's going to put a competitive lap time in, possibly, which is John van der Geest. So through the final section of the track, that car does look very, very loose. So John van der Geest and Pichler are the only people out on circuit. Unfortunately, that has ruined John van der Geest's lap. So no improvement for John van der Geest. As the only other car on the circuit coming up the back straight is Pichler. In 10th place. Let's see here we can improve. Clock has run to 0, so this is his last chance. That Armco section, trying to keep it as tight as possible, not get too much oversteer through this right angle turn. Take a little bit of grass on the inside, possibly, and through this S's section coming up. So he's got to beat a 121.2. Slight bit of oversteer. I think that was his lap time over with. So we have our grid set. So it is Kirill Kirilov, our pole man, with Maddie Shepherd in second, Tony Tauriti in third, Michael Masaryk in fourth, Phil Brown in fifth, Laurent Lons sixth, wasn't able to improve, Marius Lebioda in seventh, John van der Geest in eighth, Paul Upham in 9th, Philip Pichler in 10th, Jari Laakkonen in 11th, and Kemi Martikainen in 12th. Ed Jones, last of our runners, in 13th. Wow, 60 minutes of racing. 60 minutes of racing. I'm looking forward to this. This is the first circuit which has been a little bit tighter than the last, and I'm interested to see how the drivers handle the twists and turns and whether they're able to follow each other. Because being tucked under the rear wing, we've spotted in the previous first and second round that you have to be tucked right under the rear wing to be able to get a run. So. Yeah. Okay. So. Here we go. 60 minutes of racing. Hold on to your butts. So we're going to have to remember it's a standing start, and I'm going to have to get off the grid pretty quickly when the green light goes, because of Assetto Corsa things. That is just the way that we have to do it with Assetto Corsa. So I'm just watching the admin messages. Good luck, everyone, and have fun. Have fun is the most important part. That's what we do this for. So, 13 drivers on the track. Let's hope for no accidents. I think we may have lost one. That is unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Just waiting for the timer to go out. And we are off. We've already got a car off in the grass. I believe that's Paul Upham. Off in the grass over the bumps. Maddie Shepherd trying to get up the inside of Kirilov. Kirilov was on pole, but Maddie Shepherd has got up the inside. They are still side by side through this first section of the track. Are they continuing to go side by side? No, they're not. I believe that Kirilov maybe thought that patience was the better part of valor. But he's currently being caught by Michael Masaryk down this big long straight. It does look like Paul Upham is got going again, but he's got a lot of time to catch up after that off in turn 1. So Maddie Shepherd off in the lead with Kirilov second, Masaryk in third. Lons is now up to 4th. A great start from Lons, starting 6th. And he's right on the tail of, I believe, Masaryk. So a tardy qualifying session, but making up for it in the race. Right under the rear wing of Masaryk. And we're coming through the final section. So looking for the outside line coming up here. The track is very, very tight through there. He's trying the outside line coming into what is a very hard stopping point, but not quite able to do anything about it. This is the closest battle on track. Masaryk heading to the inside to defend down this long straight. But is Lons able to get an overlap? He is. Lons is able to get around and is up into the podium places. That's Paul Upham, first of our lap runners, I believe. So now Lons has to go and chase after Maddie Shepherd and Kirilov. I think we may have lost Kirilov. I'm not spotting I don't see Kirilov on the... No, I believe... Unfortunately, I think Kirilov may have disconnected, so Maddie Shepherd has got this race to herself at the moment. Lons is giving chase. Or is that now Kirilov in third? That is Kirilov in third, so we lost Kirilov for a second. And there's someone pulling into the pits. I'm not sure Hugh at the moment. Is that Lons pulling into the pit? That might have been Lons pulling into the pits. It can't be Lons pulling it. That's Maddie Shepherd pulling into the pits. Is that a stop and go penalty? Did Maddie Shepherd get a a too good a start and has had to take a stop and go penalty for a jump start. Perhaps. So now, championship leader now leads the race with Kirill Kirilov not far behind. And so how safe do you want to play this, Kirill? The winner last time out. It does look like it's very difficult to stick under the rear wing of the car ahead. And we'll get a good idea of how much or how little rear wing people are running. Kirilov seems to have got the pace. Over the top of the hill, slight gink to the right. There's no way through here. Does he go left or right? He goes left. Is he going to leave room? It's very brave if he's going to try. He did get the overlap and he's around the outside, but he's going to go a little bit wide. He did have enough pace to get around the outside. That's a very good move. And it instantly goes to the inside to defend just in case. Now they're down the back straight. It seems like there's this battle is going to go on and on and on. This is for championship honours. So Lons is currently second in the second on the road, but first in the championship. And Kirilov is now first on the road, but second in the championship. So it might not be enough to switch the championship positions, but it's going to do an awful lot to make this championship even closer than it was. So through this fast section up to the end of the lap, he's able to pull out just over a second. So maybe Kirilov has the overall pace to be able to go away from these other drivers. As we see someone else taking a little bit of an excursion underneath the bridge there. I'm not sure who that was. Paul Upham. We saw Paul Upham have a little bit of an off in the opening lap. He's now up to 11th place. A bit far behind from 9th. I believe it was John van der Geest that's gone off somewhere. No, he's back. That was the camera fooling me. Unfortunately, we go on board with John van der Geest when he hits the tyres. It looked like John van der Geest is going to have a nice time at this time in the US. Newcomer Jari Lackinen, sorry, in 8th place. Very steady driving on the rear end of Kimi Martikainen. As Kimi Martikainen has an off. Is his car in one piece? I believe it is. It's very difficult to see. All wheels are still attached. So that's what happens when you go a tiny bit wide and it just feeds you off into the undergrowth. So going up to what is the battle for second and third. It's very, very close. So Phil Brown is now in the mix. So Pichler. And then we have Labioda just behind in 5th. And then we have Phil Brown just behind in 6th place. The leader has now pulled out a 2 second lead over Lons. The battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. It looks like Phil Brown may be running a lower downforce setup. He was able to breeze past up the straight, but can he get it stopped? That is very close to the wall. I think I nearly held my breath. So maybe running slightly lower downforce to be able to take advantage of the big long straight, one of the only real big passing opportunities, and then just have to deal with the car in the corners being a bit slippy. So Phil Brown now up to 5th place, and it does look like Maddie Shepherd has disconnected. I don't know whether that was too much damage, or maybe the incident at the start. We'll see if possible if they've connected again. So just under 10 minutes gone, and Kirilov has nearly a 3-second lead, so he's pulling out a gap. Currently in the 1:19.3 range, so he's not up to his qualifying pace, but still pretty fast. So Kirilov in first, championship leader. Lons is in second, closely followed by Michael Masaryk. He's not letting him get away. So within a second, so it's just going to take a tiny slip up from Lons, and Masaryk is going to be all over his rear end. So he has a carrot to chase, or metaphorical carrot to chase. So we'll have to see whether this gap is going to stay under a second. Over the line for another lap. And we're going to step back towards this battle. 4th, 5th and 6th. I believe Phil Brown, is that Phil Brown gone up another place? I believe it is. Phil Brown has now overtaken Pichler for 4th. And I think that is a lapped car ahead of them. That's the lapped car of, I believe, Kimi Martikainen. Excuse me. Kimi Martikainen. So hopefully Phil can get past without too much trouble, and indeed he does. He moves well out the way. Well, I say well out the way, but someone still collided with him. I think there was a bit of a miscommunication perhaps with what Martikainen was doing. He was trying to get out of the way. Maybe someone outbraked themselves. So Labioda is now has Pichler all over his rear end. Pichler has dropped back, so maybe it was Pichler that had that little accident. Hopefully not too much damage to Pichler's car. So Paul Upham, as we said at the first part of the race, had an accident, but he's now on the back of Ed Jones. Passing move up the inside, so passing opportunities all over this circuit. More than the places that I thought there would be. There might be a bit of a difference in pace, so maybe Paul Upham is driving angry and putting in the lap times. Across the finishing line for another lap. So Paul Upham now up to 8th. So the battle for second place is raging on. That's Kirilov just passing us in the lead. So his gap is now up to 6 seconds. Let's see how close we are on board with Masaryk coming up to the finishing line. So 2:72 was about the top speed that we saw before. So let's see. So up this back straight, and this is going to be the fastest part of the circuit. Completely flat through the kink. And we're gaining. We're within a second of the car in front, so the wisps of draft quite close enough. You're probably going to need to be within about 0.2 of the car in front to even have an opportunity to pass. So this battle is going to rage on until the last. I believe it's the closest battle on track at the moment. And this has championship connotations as well. Currently Lons in second would only get 18 points out of this race. Now some quick maths. That would put him on, that's 51. That's 59 points. Kirilov would have 25 plus 34. So there may be a championship change at the end of this race. Or a championship lead change at the end of this race. Now the timing tower is probably telling fibs because it's knocking Kirilov off the top. But Kirilov hasn't disappeared, so I think there's probably some timing problems with this track. So it is indeed Kirilov that still leads. With Lons in second. And Masaryk in third. So he's still able to keep within a second, but he's not quite close enough to pass. So they're probably running very, very similar pace and similar downforce setups. It doesn't look like they gain an awful lot from the draft. We may have lost Phil Brown. Not sure where Phil Brown was. I believe he was around the top 5 somewhere, so that's a shame if we've lost Phil Brown. So 45 minutes to go. Philip Pichler looks like he was maybe just recovering from a off there, or maybe coming out the slow corner. So 5th place, Philip Pichler all on their own. Newcomer Jari Lackinen currently with, I believe that's Maddie Shepherd just behind, if I've got my paint job recognition correct. But she is a lap adrift, so she'll be unlapping herself. Jari Lackinen putting in a solid drive in 6th place. He indeed lets her through. And now we have Paul Upham. Now with the loss of Phil Brown, is now up to 7th place. So a stunning drive all the way from the back. Now we aren't expecting any pit stops. There may be pit stops because of how many corners there are on this track. I believe tyre wear could be an issue. I don't foresee there being not pit stops. I'm not sure of fuel efficiency. And then in 8th place we have Ed Jones, again all out on his own, coming down the back straight. In fact, not far from being lapped. It does look like we may see Kirilov just popping into view. So Kirilov still leads. A slight gap now down to Michael Masaryk. I think we've missed something here. Lons must have had a little bit of an off because there is a big gap between Masaryk and Lons. I didn't see it. Lons went in the pits. So maybe a little bit of a mistake from Lons. He's now down to 3rd place. Now 10 seconds adrift of 2nd place. Which is a shame, but we still have over 40 minutes to go, so plenty can go wrong. Yeah, this field is spaced out a little. Labioda in 4th place. Well, Labioda has competed in just 1 round. No, he's competed in 2 rounds, but he's only scored 1 point from both rounds. So he's normally on the tail end of the top 10. So Labioda now up to 4th place. It'll be a stunning drive. Pichler now in 5th place. So Pichler currently in 8th place in the championship. He is the only driver for Team Solitude. We're currently third in the championship. So with 40 minutes to go, Kirilov still leads. Masaryk is now only 6 to 7 seconds behind, with Lons in third, Labioda in fourth, Pichler in fifth. With a few drivers hoping to get their laps back. So John van der Geest, we did unfortunately go on board with John van der Geest, as he had that little bit of an off at the end of the straight. He was braking all wrong. And I believe that's 7th place just behind. So Paul Upham is currently going to be putting a lap on John van der Geest. So John van der Geest not having a good time. So Maddie Shepherd is on the fight back of her life. 1:18.7 is her current lap time, so not far off qualification pace. But currently in 10th place, and I think that is 2 laps down. So she would get 1 point for this if she stays where she is. But it is close for 3rd, 4th and 5th in the championship. Because Masaryk in 3rd of the championship has 28 points. Maddie Shepherd has 27 and Phil Brown has 25. So things are about to change. So hopefully we can do all of this on the fly when this race is finished and get you a championship order. So Michael Masaryk, Polish driver, currently 3rd in the championship. Let's have a look at the recent results. So he was 5th in the first round. Let's check the second round. And he was 2nd in the second round. So this will be a consistent finish for Michael Masaryk. We head back to Pichler. A couple of marks on his car there. Looks like having contact with a couple of other cars, perhaps, or maybe some solid objects. Looks like Maddie Shepherd is coming to unlap herself from behind there. So Philip Pichler in the first round was 8th place, and in the second round was 7th place. So he's scored in both rounds so far, and he's punching above that in this one. So that will be a great finish. As Kirilov in the 18.6 range lap time, out on his own. He's got half the length of the straight to himself, as Masaryk is just coming through the kink onto the straight now. And then again, another half a length of the straight, or a third of the length of the straight, is Lons. So 10 seconds between each of them. I believe they've all, the top 3 is lapped all the way up to 8th place, which is Ed Jones. Fourth place of Labioda is another 14 seconds behind. So normally in this races there's a quick flurry in the first 10 minutes and then it really settles down in the middle of the race. And then pit stops will sometimes really spice things up. So if we have a look at, for example, Labioda's tyres, so it doesn't look like they've marked up that much. We did see in qualification that a couple of drivers were marking up the tyres a little, and particularly the onboard lap that I was kindly provided to me by Maddie Shepherd. She had marked up her tyres quite significantly. So tyre wear can be an issue. So Paul Upham is on the fight back. He is not far behind Lackinen. And Lackinen is the yellow car in front, who has a little bit of an oversteer moment coming out of that turn. So this must be quite difficult for Lackinen, because he's just about to be lapped, but he's got a person for position right behind the lapping car, I believe. So where's a good place to let them through? Unfortunately, the icons are over each other, so I can't see who that car is. I believe that isn't for position. So that's John Vandergeest. He's a lap down. Wanted to get his lap back. So Yari quite rightly spotted that John Vandergeest was a little bit faster. And they were just going to hold each other up. So now Jari Lackinen has to worry about Paul Upham behind. He hasn't got a safe buffer. So Paul Upham, as we go on board with Paul Upham, unfortunately running a bit too wide and spinning it round. That was unfortunate because he was catching up to the tail end of Lackinen in 6th. And he's got to do all that hard work again. You see his paint job is very, very similar to Kirilov. One of them is an Alfa Romeo, and one of them is a McLaren. So 34, just over 34 minutes to go. Kirilov still leads by now 20 seconds. Let's check out Kirilov's tyres. Don't look too bad. I can't really see too much wear on them. So even with the lap times that they're putting in, not too much wear, but we'll see what happens after 60 minutes of racing. But we'll see whether anyone is going to make a pit stop. Will fuel mileage take them to the end of a 60-minute race? Who knows, but he does have a 12-second buffer. A lot of things can go wrong in the pits. It's not a bad pit entry. So we're coming through the slowest part of the circuit. Coming up towards some lapped cars. I believe that is probably Kimi Martikainen in 11th. In fact, that is 10th place of Maddie Shepherd that's just in front. Maddie Shepherd is currently trying to get her lap back from... that's Jari Lackinen. So will Jari Lackinen spot that there was a faster car behind? You might as well let it through. Oh, he nearly let too much through and nearly went off there. Got scared off the road. So Maddie Shepherd still will get several laps back, as Lackinen does take a little bit of a bite out of that wall there. Is there any significant damage? Not sure what happened there, whether it was an oversteer moment coming out of that turn. But we did see him take a little bit of a bite out of that wall. It does look like that there may be some damage because he's struggling to get through this turn. Bit of a baptism of fire for this being your first round of the championship. So Lackinen is running the ATS skin. Seem to remember that the ATS had drivers like Manfred Winkelhock. Was it the ATS that has the ABBA sponsorship? I can't remember. There was one car in the 70s that seemed to have ABBA sponsorship, but I don't know if it was the ATS or not. So, what has happened to Kirillov? Has Kirillov pitted without us knowing, because he is just ahead on Masaryk? The gap is only a second, so either Kirillov has had an off. This is round about the time for pit stops. It does look like Martikainen's in the pits. I don't know if that is permanent or whether they will be out again. So the battle is on for the lead. Either that or this is a pit stop ahead. Kirillov will be a pit stop ahead of Masaryk. But needless to say, this has spiced things up a little. So if we have a look at Kirillov's last lap, it was a 1:32, so that does look like it was either an off or a pit stop. We'll have to see if Masaryk pits soon. He is past half distance, or near enough past half distance. A couple of marks on Kirillov's car as well, which does suggest that maybe a collision of some kind. So Masaryk, let's take a look at the... He is gaining, so maybe Kirillov has gone for a high downforce setup. Masaryk is probably running maybe a lower wing, because we did see him gain from about a second back, but it's just the twisty section that he's not really able to stay as close. So the gap gone up. We saw when we got into the twisty section, the gap went straight up to about 1.5 seconds. But maybe Kirillov does have that pace advantage, that he's able to just squeeze out or eke out that gap. He did pull out about a 20-second lead, but there was a couple of accidents further back that dropped a few back. Now we have got a battle incoming between fourth and third, or third and fourth. This is Labioda. We see Lons just going through the foreground. So not far behind. Only 5 seconds, so is Lons having trouble as well? Labioda did a last lap time of 1:20, and Lons was in the 1:22 range, so maybe the stakes are creeping in at half distance. We'll have a look whether Lons' tyres are marked up. Doesn't look like it. Although saying that, this is probably not the side of the tyre that would get marked up. So we are on a clockwise circuit. It'll probably be the left front. Close as you like to the rock wall. It's like threading the needle. So just past half distance. Now just under 28 minutes to go. Kirillov still leads. Masaryk is in second. Lons is in third. Not far behind second place. And then we have Marius Labioda, who's a further 5 to 6 seconds behind. In fourth, Philip Pichler, I believe, has been... no, has not been lapped, but he is about 30 seconds behind that leading group. What he does need to do is keep it going for a top 5 finish. It wouldn't be too bad. Take what you can get, because we do have some varying rounds coming up. So Jari Lakkinen has now got Paul Upham for company again. So Paul Upham has now recovered from his spin, and he is now gaining on that car in front. So he's now within a second. This is prime opportunity to have a run onto the back straight. So closing all the time. So is Lackinen suffering from tyre wear in his first race? So over the stripe. So which way are you going to go? You're going to go left or right? Pick a side, pick a side. It's going to be right. Doesn't quite have the braking capability and indeed locks up the tyres, but he did force Lackinen into a mistake. He faked to the inside and made Lackinen watch their mirrors. So it still worked out in the end, but I'd imagine that if we were on board with Paul Upham, I'd imagine those tyres are probably feeling very second-hand. A couple of flat spots, I feel. So a fight back from the back. Paul Upham is now up to 6th place. It's a stunning drive. An absolute stunner of a drive. So how far, or how close can he get to Philip Pichler ahead? He does have 20 seconds to catch. So that does look like they're about to be lapped by Masaryk behind. Lackinen gets it all wrong, unfortunately. Or fortunately, lets the lap car of Masaryk by. Masaryk's next target is Paul Upham in 6th. So 2nd place will have lapped all the way up to 6th place. So Paul Upham's still knocking the tyres ahead. He's really struggling to slow it down at that portion of the circuit. It's probably not making his tyres feel all that great. So I haven't seen anyone else pop into the pits at all. When it is past half distance, are we going to have a late flurry of pit stops? We'll have to see. I would imagine that a lot of people have been studying what others have been up to with their pit strategy. What's the fastest way? So Paul Upham pulls to the inside and lets Masaryk through. Means he goes another lap down, but still in 6th place. So Kirillov now out in front into the end of the straight. Okay, I am really confused. I believe Masaryk is probably must have pitted. We did think that Kirillov pitted and that's why they were so close. So Masaryk is probably pitted now. That's why Masaryk is now another 20 seconds back. So normal service has resumed. So that 20-second buffer has now returned. It's now returned to a 30-second buffer. So it's actually increased after the pit stops. So Masaryk in 2nd. Lons is not far behind. That gap is still stable around 5 seconds. So they're staying in the 1:19 lap time range. So you can see that there's Lons there. And I believe that Lons now is coming up to the lap for Upham. So with just over 22 minutes to go, are we in for a late flurry? So Paul Upham goes a little bit wide and Lons takes the opportunity for another lap. So currently sitting on the podium. This will be a good finish for Lons, but he may lose the championship lead. I don't really want to do any provisional points now, just in case. So we go on board with Marius Labioda. Again, Labioda has had... let's check what Labioda's been doing for the past 2 rounds. So Labiode was 12th in the first round and 10th in the second round. So a 4th place would be a stunning drive. Would really move the championship around into the latter half of this series, because we have 3 rounds to go. So in 2 weeks, round 4 will be at Mont Tremblant, 1969. And then we're heading to the Bugatti circuit, so the Le Mans Bugatti circuit, 1967. So the cars will really get to stretch their legs a little. It's not the Le Mans circuit. And then we head to Zolder. Zolder's pretty much going to be flat out for these cars. So heading back towards the back of the field, John van der Geest still circulating in 8th place. Not too many people around. That is Kirillov, who's just put a lap on him. Just ahead. So it's a bit of a shame that the timing tower is not really giving me an accurate read, but so there's Lackinen in 7th. I think I can see that's Labiode in the background. Lackinen in the 122s. And Paul Upham is in the 122s as well. So the gap has stabilised. But still, the closest battle on the track is between Laurent Lons, the championship leader. There's a car pulls to the inside and lets him through. I believe that was Paul Upham. And you see the yellow car of Michael Masaryk in 2nd. So now the gap to the leader is now up to 30 seconds. Kirillov really does seem to have a handle on this car. It doesn't matter what circuit. It seems that he's able to put in the fast lap times. So last lap time around 18.8, so he's pulling out just over a second a lap from the car behind. So whatever setup is chosen, whatever strategy is chosen, it is working. As we cut to Lackinen, it's having another off, and that means that Upham has gone by, I believe. Did see a red car flashing off into the distance. So unfortunately that drops Lackinen down to 7th, but being the first round, it'd be good just to put points on the board. So 18 minutes to go. It is Kirillov stretching out his lead. That lap time bouncing between the 118s or 118.5 to 19.1. Masaryk is just coming across the line in 2nd. He's able to put in lap time of 19.6, but still not quite lap time of Kirillov. Lons is still keeping that gap stable between 4 and 5 seconds. So this podium may shuffle by the end of this race. So we may have fireworks at the end of this race. It does depend on tyre wear. So I am keeping an eye on what these tyres look like. They do look like they're holding up. If there has been a pit stop in between, maybe these tyres do look a little fresher. Maybe they were about to fall off a cliff at half distance. But you can see the gap. It's not an awful lot. So 4 seconds. So last lap time 19.7. Masaryk has just done a 1:20.2, so the gap is closing. Slight luck up from Masaryk coming up that, or out of that hairpin. It does look like that Lons was doing the same thing, so near the end of this race, these tyres really do struggle. So Kirillov still leads Masaryk in second, Lons in third, Labioda in fourth, Philip Pichler in fifth, Upham now up to sixth, Lackinen up to seventh. Then we have Ed Jones in eighth, John van der Geest in ninth. And unfortunately 2 laps down is Maddie Shepherd in 10th. It'll still be 1 point for the championship. But it does look like Kimi Martikainen has pitted permanently, so whether the damage was too much. So it does look like Paul Upham is pulling away from Lackinen. So that's Labioda. That's Upham. And Upham goes a little wide. So just to be extra confusing, Ed Jones is in an Alfa Romeo, which is red and white. And across the bridge. Paul Upham is in a red and white McLaren. And Kirillov, I believe, is in a red and white Alfa Romeo. So still in the high 18s lap time. But if we look back at the battle up between Paul Upham and Lackinen, gap has closed up significantly. Well, that maybe was a mistake from Paul Upham. Maybe because the last lap times are 1:24, but he just fortunately going on board. And I think we saw Ed Jones nearly coming to grief through that tight section there. But he was thankfully able to gather it up. So Lackinen's going to get by. So the chase is on for 6th place again. So Lackinen now has the car to chase. Slight lock up ahead, which maybe puts Lackinen off a little, and he runs a little bit wide. Out the back straight. Let's keep an eye on this gap and see what happens. It does look like Paul Upham gains down the straight. It wasn't a good exit for Lackinen out of the hairpin. That must be John van der Geest making his way through this traffic here. Must be very complicated because there are cars a lap ahead and there's cars a lap behind. So Upham, Lackinen, John van der Geest, Ed Jones. So Lackinen is chasing Paul Upham, and John van der Geest behind is a place behind, but he is a lap adrift, which makes it extra complicated. So coming up towards the sharp stopping point. Another knock of the tyres, don't want to run too wide. Keeping an eye on that gap for second and third because it's come down quite significantly. So Masaryk is now definitely having trouble keeping up the pace. The lap time has now dropped to about the 120 mark. Lons is putting a final push in this final 10 minutes of the race, so this might be a showdown to the end. So 2.2 seconds to catch. So he's pushing a lot into that final, that hairpin rather. So a lapped car is now ahead. If he's very lucky, he might be able to pass on the straight. He's got to play it very, very safe. Staying off those walls. Slight dip and trying not to run too wide, getting back on the throttle as early as possible. Through one of the tightest sections of the circuit. That's very good driving from the car behind. In fact, the car ahead now, or car behind now. I believe that was Pichler. He spotted there was a faster car coming and let them through at the earliest opportunity. So it didn't seem to affect the gap an awful lot. So second and third is still not settled. 10 minutes to go. Kirillov still out in the lead by about 50 seconds, it says on the timing. So he's pulled out a significant gap. This is Masaryk in the second, with Lons, the championship leader, chasing him down. So the gap maybe stabilised a little. But this is a 10-minute dash until the end of this race. I was just looking at the timing between Paul Upham and Lackinen. It does look like Lackinen has dropped back again, so maybe struggling to keep up with Paul Upham's pace. But still, this battle is raging for second and third. This S's section. Getting on the throttle over this blind crest and over the line for another lap. Just under 9 minutes to go. How much has Lons got left? Last lap time of 19.5. Let's see, is Masaryk pushing too? So Masaryk is still upped his pace to 119.4. So it's an up and down. So who makes the least mistakes? So Masaryk and Lons in the background, stalking. That might be a slight mistake from Masaryk. I thought that car was heading out towards the Armco there. The things about the circuit is if you put a wheel on the grass coming out of the corner, it will pull your car off the road. Over the line for another lap. Let's see. Can't quite see Lons in the background with the helicopter view here, coming into the big hairpin. There's Lons coming into shot as we come up the big long back straight. How far away is Lons behind? He's within view. Gap is fluctuating now, just over 2 seconds. Just wondering whether this is going to change. Last lap time of a 19.2, so pushing on. Still, the Kirilov out in the lead has put in an astounding pace. And has left the other drivers to play catch up. The line crest again. Just 6 minutes to go. Down to one of the sharpest stopping points on the track. Slight lock up, not quite meeting the apex. I'm sure these tyres are absolutely screaming. They've been put through such punishment. It was all looking good at the start of the race. Maddie Shepherd and Kirill Kirilov went side by side for the lead, and Maddie Shepherd came out in the lead, but that was only to last for about a lap. We'll have to find out after the race whether there was maybe a jump start, as Maddie ended up going into the pits. And then from then on, Masaryk and Lons have been battling it out. Another notable mention is Paul Upham, who we did see take a little bit of a, I was going to say a tumble, wasn't really a tumble, but he was off on the outside on the first lap, and near enough went to the back of the field, and has had to work his way back up. He's now up to 6th place. So Paul Upham finished 10th in the first round and 9th in the second, so finishing 6th would be a big improvement. And 6th place is 8 points for the championship, so good points going into the latter half. So unfortunately we lost a driver just before the start of the race. Tony Talviti unfortunately disconnected just before we went to the grid, which is a bit of a shame, because Tony Talviti, he is in 7th in the championship, 11th in the first round, he got 4th in the second round, so he's going to drop quite a few places. So there's some big winners and some losers in this race. Now I'm going to provisionally start filling in some points. I don't know if that is a good idea or a bad idea. So Kirilov, currently in the lead, would come away with 25 points. Masaryk would come away with 18. But this is the top 3 that are going to be probably the front runners throughout this entire series. They seem to be sharing the honours. There's been 2 rounds and 2 winners this series. Lons won the first one and Kirilov won the second. As Lons takes a bit chunk out of that wall there, could that mean that his tyres really are giving up? Or just maybe pushing a little too hard. But with just over 2 minutes to go, that might be battle over. But still, the gap is around 2.5 seconds. So it's whoever's going to make the least mistakes, I believe. So Labioda currently in 4th place. Good points from Labioda. But I'm still keeping an eye on this battle. It's now around 2 seconds. It is getting so close. Slight lock up from Masaryk ahead. It looks like they are both suffering. And there was a little bit of confusion 2 weeks ago. I believe that the lead had come across the line, and I thought they had gone a lap short. But obviously the overlays were a bit lagging behind. I got the shock of my life thinking that the leader would just slow down and let everyone through, but no. So the gap is marginally under 2. So this is the last lap dash for Lons. So let's see where Kirilov is on the circuit. I believe we've only got just over a minute to go. So Kirilov just coming down the back straight. I am going to keep an eye on Kirilov because the clock may run out by the time they get to the start finish. So Masaryk being closely followed by Lons in the background, 2nd and 3rd place. So the gap is now dipped under 2 seconds, but I don't know if we're probably going to run out of time. I don't think it's going to be enough. So Kirilov coming up to what will be the line. 20 seconds to go. Is he going to cross the line before the time runs out? Looks like there will be one more lap. So one more lap between Masaryk and Lons. Lons is now definitely closed. Is now just over a second. Lap time of 1:19.1, so one of the fastest laps in a while. So they're going to come across the line for what is their last lap. Slight lock up from Masaryk ahead, but still not quite close enough. This is going to go down to the wire, but I believe that they are going to run out of laps. Pace is just not quite there. Kirilov coming through the final few turns. Coming out of the final turn, Kirilov is going to come over the brow of the hill, and he is going to win at Lake Garnet as he takes a bit to the grass. That's one way to finish the race. He comes over the line. I believe that is it. So Kirilov gets first. Masaryk is still yet to finish, but coming through the final few turns. The lapped car is ahead. Lons wasn't quite close enough in the end. Got within 1.5 seconds. But not quite close enough, but a good run. Biota is coming around in the final few turns in 4th. Out on his own. It's going to be one of the final cars to finish. I believe that everyone was lapped up to about 4th place, so Biota is the only one on the lead lap. So across the line. So there you have it. 60 minutes of racing at Lake Garnet. What a race that was. What a race that was. I'm going to take a screenshot of the finishing position so I can do some maths. I'm going to do a little bit of maths. So there we go. Right, 60 minutes of racing. I'm worn out after that. I don't know about you. It is getting a bit warmer in the UK at the moment, but So, let's total up some points, shall we? So, so we got the first. Right. So Kirillov came away with 25 points for first place. Masaryk came away with 18 points for second. Lons came away with current championship leader, but may not be after this. I don't believe, looking at the provisionals, may have lost the championship lead. So 15 points for third. Labioda in fourth gets 12 points. And then we have Pichler in fifth with 10 points. Lackinen in sixth. These are provisional points, so it may be a little bit different. So Lackinen may have got 8 points. Paul Upham, I believe those positions may have been... No, it's the other way round. It's the other way round. Let's grab the proper points. Here we go. Assetto Corsa. Come on now. Right, so Philip Pichler in fifth. Did I get that right? 10 points. Paul Upham did in fact finish in sixth, and he gets 8 points. Jari Lackinen, first race in this series, comes home 7th, and they will be getting 6 points. John van der Geest comes home 8th, and gets 4 points. Ed Jones finishes in 9th and gets 2 points. And Maddie Shepherd gets the last championship point in 10th place, if we total up these points. So, it looks like Kirillov has now taken over the championship lead with 59 points. Lons has now been knocked down to second with 56 points. Michael Masaryk is in third in the championship with 46 points. Maddie Shepherd has now dropped down the order. Actually, she hasn't dropped down the order, she's just got overtaken, but stayed where she was. She's still in fourth place in the championship, but just with 28 points. Phil Brown in fifth place in the championship with 25. Then we have sixth, which is John van der Geest with 20 points, level with Philip Pichler in 7th. Tony Talviti unfortunately didn't score this round, is in 8th place. Marius Labioda is in 9th place. Paul Upham, a good scoring round for this round, in 10th. And then Kimi Martikainen in 11th. Jari Lackinen, first round score, in 12th, and then Ed Jones in 13th. So, we have 3 rounds to go. Next round will be Mont-Tremblant in 2 weeks on the 15th of May. And then 2 weeks after that, we're at Le Mans at Bugatti. And then Zolder 1967 for the last round in 12th of June. So, join us then. simracingonline.co.uk if you want to join us. Find the instructions to sign up, and you're more than welcome, because as you see, 60 minutes of racing, very, very competitive. We do races in R Factor 2, Project Cars 2, Le Mans Ultimate, and Assetto Corsa, and R Factor 2 as well. So join us then for the next round of the Formula 1979 V8 Championship. See you then.